Hey everyone, we're going to be talking about free patterns here at Sew PDF a lot this month. We're calling it Free Pattern February at Sew PDF. And to kick it off, I've made this video for you about the Elemental Tee by Buttons and Blueprints. So I'm going to show you exactly how to sew a perfect fitting t-shirt with this pattern. But first I want to show you how to get it free. So to get it free, you need to sign up for the newsletter of Buttons and Blueprints. I've put a link in the description of this video for where to find their newsletter subscription. So after you subscribe, you should get an email in your inbox that looks like this. So it's got 4 different files in it. You've got your tutorial with all of the instructions. Then you've got your home printing file. So this prints on either letter size paper or A4 size paper. So letter size is if you're in North America and A4 is for the rest of the world. That's the standard size of paper for a home printer. Now it's also got this large format A0 file, and this can be used to print on blueprint size paper so that you don't have to tape all of the pages together. This can be done at most copy shops, although some are a lot more expensive than others. The most inexpensive way I know of to get the A0 printed in the US is through pdfplotting.com. Now this is only available in the US, but you can order from there and have it mailed to you. And if you order a few patterns at a time to spread out the shipping among them, it's a pretty reasonable cost. Now there are some great places in other countries to get A0 patterns printed, but I'm not familiar with them all. But if you let me know in the comments where you're from, I might be able to make a recommendation. Now the 4th file is a projector file. So for those of you who might not be aware, this is the newest thing in PDF sewing. You can actually set up a projector that projects the file down onto your fabric so that you can cut it out without having to print at all. Or if you have a lot of adjustments to do, then you could project onto paper, and it's still faster than printing individual pages and taping them all together. And in the long run, if you sew a lot, it's less expensive than ordering the large format patterns for every pattern that you use. So once you've decided which file you're going to use, whether you're going to get it printed on the large paper or print it at home and tape the pages together, or if you have a projector, you're going to project it, before you get going, you should figure out which options you want to sew. This is the basic Elemental Tee, and it has 2 neckline options and a bunch of sleeve lengths. So that's all that you have to choose between. But there is another version of the Elemental Tee called the Elemental Tee Deluxe with a bunch of other options like a hood, a peplum skirt, bishop sleeves, thumbhole cuffs, and a flutter sleeve. And I'll give you some more info about that version at the end of this video. Before you start, you will also need to pick your size, of course. You can use the size chart in the tutorial. Make sure to measure yourself at the upper bust, the full bust, the waist, and the hip. You might fall into different sizes like I do. My bust is a size 10 and my waist and hip are a size 12. But there are instructions in the tutorial for how to grade between sizes. It's actually quite simple and gives you a perfect fit. If you'd like to see a video on size grading, please let me know in the comments. Also, I should note that if your full bust is 2 sizes or more larger than your upper bust, then you should use the full bust adjustment front piece that is provided by Buttons and Blueprints. Okay, so I have a projector. So when I made this tee, this is my Elemental Tee here, I cut it using my projector like this. This purple fabric is actually another Elemental Tee that I cut out. And if you're interested, I was thinking about doing another video when I sewed that one with some extra tips on how to sew it without a serger. But you can follow all the steps in this video to sew it without a serger, as long as you know how to use your sewing machine with knits. Okay, so sewing the Elemental Tee. The first step is to place your front and back pieces right sides together and sew your shoulder seams. Now I just want to note that at the raw edge, the shoulder seams are not the same width, but they are the same width at the stitching line. A lot of people get confused by that when it doesn't match up, but it is professionally drafted in the correct way where the stitching line is what matches up. So after sewing your shoulder seams, you're going to unfold the bodice. So you've got the full arm side curve open, and then we're going to place the sleeve in. So you're going to match up the top notch of your sleeve with the shoulder seam, making sure that the other notch for the back of the sleeve is matched up with the back arm side. So I usually pin and clip those notches first, and then go and pin clip the corners together and then in between. One thing to note if you're a beginner with sleeves is that the sleeve cap will be a little longer than the armhole at the raw edge. but it should match at the stitching line, which is further in and is a shorter distance. With knit sleeves, it's easy to just stretch the armhole gently so that the raw edges match up all right. Just make sure you aren't stretching at the stitching line when you're sewing. Okay, so after you sew your sleeves in place, then you're going to fold your sleeve right sides together, matching up the seam of the sleeve, pin or clip that in place, and then you're also going to align the seam at the bottom of the armhole and pin or clip that in place, and your side seam as well. Then you're going to sew from the bottom of the sleeve all the way up under the arm and down the side seam. After both side seams are done, it's time to sew the neckband. So you're going to take your neckband, fold it right sides together, aligning the short edge, and sew along the short edge. If you sew this seam on a serger, it can be a little bulky. So what I like to do is just make a little snip in the seam allowance right in the center, and then I can turn the seam allowance in opposite directions, reducing the bulk. Fold that neckband, wrong sides together, and pin or clip it at the seam. Then you're going to divide your neckband into quarters using pins or clips. So first you can fold the band in half and place a pin or a clip on the opposite end from where the seam is and your original pin or clip. Then you can match up those two existing pins or clips, folding it again and placing another one halfway in between to mark a quarter point. And you're going to do that on the other side as well. Next, you're going to divide your neck hole into quarters in the same way. You can fold your neck hole in half to get the center back and the center front. Then you're going to fold and place your other quarter points, which will not be at the shoulder seams. A lot of people accidentally put them at the shoulder seams when they're first doing neckband, but unless you have a really high neckline, the shoulder seams are way too far up to place your quarter points. Next, you're going to take your neckband and match up those quarter points with the quarter points of the neck hole. So you're going to start by putting the seam of the neckband at the center back. And then match up the rest of those quarter points, making sure that your neckband is not twisted and the raw edges are all aligned. So you'll notice that your neckband is smaller than the neck hole. It needs to be in order to sit properly after it's sewn. So after you have your quarter points, I recommend stretching the neckband gently until it matches the size of that section of the neck hole and adding another pin or clip in the middle, just to keep it distributed evenly while you're sewing. So while you're sewing, you're going to stretch your neckband gently just until it matches the neckline, like this. After you've sewn your neckband, all you've got left is top stitching the neckband in place and hemming your sleeves and the bottom hem. So I just want to note that top stitching the neckband is optional. I didn't top stitch a lot of my early neckbands when I was starting to work with knits, but as I got better with knits and was able to do it without stretching the neckband out of shape, now I prefer to top stitch my neckbands. So you can see I've got a row of I used a triple stitch, which is a stretch stitch. And you're going to need a stretch stitch so that when you pull the shirt over your head and stretch it, you don't end up popping a stitch. This is the scoop neckline, and I could pull this over my head without stretching it, but chances are I'm going to stretch it at some point even if I don't need to. And if you just use a regular straight stitch, it's going to pop. I've got a couple of videos I've linked down in the description about the settings and stitches that you should use when you're sewing or hemming knits, which should come in handy for doing your top stitching in your hems if you're not familiar with working with knits. So here's my completed elemental tee. It's a pretty perfect fit. I did add a teeny bit of extra room in the waist just because I prefer my waist to have a little bit of extra room. The elemental tee is drafted to fit your body with 0 ease, which means that the size of the garment should be pretty much exactly the same size as your body. So it should skim your body without pulling in on it. But I will note that this is a very stretchy bamboo fabric, and when you use a more structured knit such as cotton lycra, especially a printed cotton lycra which has a firmer stretch, it's going to feel more restrictive as you're moving. So as you've noticed, I've got some other pictures of the Elemental Tee here and how it fits on other body shapes, so you can see what it might look like on you. So as I mentioned before, there is a deluxe version of the Elemental Tee with other options included, and this version of the Elemental Tee is actually on sale at Sew PDF until Monday, February 7th, 2022. If you missed this sale, we're still offering a smaller discount as a thank you for watching this video. So you can use code YouTubeElemental for 15% off this pattern. Thanks for watching, and I hope you check out more of our videos this month for Free Pattern February.